This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so in the town hall here, we have, John Gorey, Catherine Hilton, John Kinder, Howard, myself, Tom Seaver, and online we have, Dave Green, Jennifer Wallace, Liz, Goodsell, and Tracy McDunn and Walter Tibbetts. We have enough people here to have a quorum, so we can have an official meeting. I sent out the agenda a couple of days ago. So we're going to start off by, we're opening the meeting up at 9:03. I'll review the agenda, which includes a section on public comments, which is where we're going to have a discussion on the committee scope that Tracy brought up. We're then going to have a review of the minutes from last month. We're going to discuss membership. We'll discuss Ebola testing in the lake. Item 7 is proposed task force on funding to reduce stormwater runoff and silt contamination. We can give an update on dam activities and for cod water-based plan update. Any questions on the on the agenda? Good. All right, so let's start off with the public comment section. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Tracy, since she brought the subject up. Tracy, you're muted right now. Okay, good.
Could you share the screen, Mark, with a document that I sent so everybody can see it? I did share some members on the committee that I had their email addresses, but I didn't have everybody's.
Can you see this? Can you see what's on my screen right now?
No.
Okay, so I gotta figure out how to do a screen share then. Does anyone know? There used to be a minute. Yeah. Did it go in for screen? Yep.
Tom got it. And then click the one on the left, which says go through the groups.
Yeah.
Double click that.
Thank you.
Or, yeah, that should.
There we go. Yep,
All
that's
right.
great. Thank you. So what I did here is I with the 3 iterations of the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee scope and structure. And, when it started in 1991, and it was an ad hoc committee at that point that was put together. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who was around back at that time, is that there was a discussion about the town taking over maintenance of the roads, and the town's proposal was if the district is shut down for October through May, 6 months of the year, basically like the winter months, they would be willing to take over the roads. And folks that owned properties over here didn't want to do that. I've heard that, it's because they felt their property values would lower, that, their prospects for moving here in retirement or what. I'm sure there was a number of different reasons. So that was nixed. And this ad hoc committee was put together with these 3 criteria. Preserve, maintain, and enhance recreational use, address through education and other means septic disposal, which are both still, in other language, still part of the scope. The third one, provide a plan for road maintenance. That's something I wanted to kind of hone in on. Was that ever provided from the Lake Wyola Association, a plan for road maintenance? And I don't know how long, Mark, you've been on the committee. I don't know if you've been here since 1991, but.
No, I don't know that at all.
Okay.
I have no idea if a road maintenance plan was ever developed.
Could you check into that? Because it seems to me that it would have been, it was clearly supposed to be turned into the town. So that would be a document, or, probably maybe in minutes. I don't know. The planning board is the committee that started this. It started LWAC. It was their proposal. So maybe the planning board, it was turned into the planning board. Oh yeah, Tom, you're in the planning board now. Maybe you could check into that and see if a road maintenance plan was ever submitted. Because that was kind of, a key piece, obviously, to have a road maintenance plan, since the town was not going to maintain the roads. So what is the plan to maintain the roads?
My, my knowledge, there was never a plan developed.
Could,
But
but I think we
well,
should check because, it seems like none of us were around back at that time. It seems like a big piece to just let slide since that was a main focus of the creation of the committee.
I'll add, when I was chairman of LWAC, it was never discussed,
Were
nor
you
was it asked of
91?
us. When I was chairman of LWAC, many, many moons ago, it was never discussed, nor was it asked of the committee.
But was it, well, it, was it,
And
Were
that was at the time before Mark was on the committee, I believe. That was myself and Bob Thompson and Bill Elliott.
back in the early aughts?
It was, that was, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, the early aughts. Yeah. So this is 1991. So this goes back twice that much, so I think it's worth checking into to see if a road maintenance plan was submitted because that was part of the purview of LWAC. So it should have been done.
Well, it can't hurt to check, and I'm sure either one of myself or Mark can make that happen.
Yeah. Or, Tom is on the planning board, so he could look to see if it's back in the planning board minutes. Okay, and then there's the board structure, and at that time, because it was an ad hoc committee, it makes sense to me that the Lake Association would be specified as members because it was ad hoc. It was only supposed to be a temporary committee when the roads are owned by the Lake Wyola Association, at least most of the roads. The roads in the Laurels are not. They're owned by a private citizen. I think her name is Priscilla Haggerty. You can look at the tax bill and see that she owns those properties. Okay, so yeah, Mark, if you could move to the second iteration. Now this, as I put at the top, question marks as to years when this was, the year that this was changed. There was nothing that indicated from this was a document that Mark had sent me back in 2021 that had the board structure. I copied it from a document that Mark sent me. And the purpose, I don't know when it changed, but I got this purpose from the LWAC page on the shutesbury.org website, because that's what's actually still up. It's this. Preserve, maintain, and enhance recreation use of lake, which is kind of a carryover from the previous one. Plan for continued quality maintenance with water quality testing, nuisance weeds, a little more detailed sediment removal, erosion control, and dam safety. Develop a long-term sustainable plan for sewage disposal, which I believe is just not happening anymore because I know that plan was something, it was much larger to have like a separate sewage system for the lake roads. Am I correct in that, Dave? And that's what the beer and wine tasting event was.
Yeah. That fact, now if I remember correctly, I took over the chairmanship from Bob Thompson. So,
that was
yeah,
Bob's.
that was Bob's baby, basically. To try to put in a gigantic septic system, basically to appease all the properties on the lake. And the beer and wine festival, that money was being raised to at least get a grant study going.
Okay. And that's been totally dropped, right?
I'm not on the association board anymore, so I'm not privy to those discussions, Tracy.
Well, this is LWAC. I'm talking about LWAC. I'm asking Mark, I guess, because this is an LWAC. It's on LWAC. I'm not talking about LWA.
I can provide some background on that, Tracy.
Okay.
Well, so what was happening back then was there sort of in maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe more longer, there was a discussion whether the lake was clean, and testing was done and confirmed that the lake was very, very clean, much cleaner than anyone expected. Right, but Bill Elliott thought that with septic systems around the lake, eventually they would start to fail and it would affect the water quality in the lake. So he had FERCog develop a preliminary plan for sewage treatment, for sewage treatment plants. And there is a plan for that around. But it turns out that water quality testing was continued and there was never any evidence of any problems with the water. The water is still pristine. The lake is still in very good shape. And the problem seems to have been addressed by the Board of Health and by Bill's efforts, predominantly by whenever someone had a building permit done to their house or made substantial changes to their house, their septic systems had to be tested and upgraded to a Title V system. And that's been going on for at least since, I think the early 90s. And so through those efforts, I don't think we've had a failed septic system around the lake. I don't know, Catherine, can you comment on that?
Systems.
I did. My system failed the year I moved here. Catherine knows all about
Systems- May I answer? Systems do fail, but we have not seen any, they fail basically on testing and, Title V inspection. We haven't seen any evidence of septic system contamination anywhere around the lake, and in fact, anywhere around town.
And so basically the idea that the sewage treatment plan never went forward because there was never a need for it.
Right. Okay. So that's no longer something that you're doing. And I think the next iteration, the most recent one, it doesn't say that. It's just that it's not up on the website. All right. And then and it still says provide guide. Now this is changed to provide guidance for road maintenance to reduce runoff. So it's specific about the reason. And runoff would be contamination of the lake. So it seems to me that what happened with your scope is that you started zoning in more on the health of the lake as opposed to the Lake Wyola Association issue around year-round, opening and all that. So, and I think that's great. Oh, don't skip past that. Sorry.
Oh, I'm glad the discussion going here, Susan.
Huh?
I want to keep the conversation
No,
going.
I'm going to the membership. Yeah. Because you were just moving past the membership part. So it looks like the membership stayed the same, except that you put specific technical expertise roles here for emergency management director and dam keeper. Okay. And now you can move the third one. Thanks, Mark. So, and this is the change in scope that Mark made me aware of that had happened in June 17th of 2017. It just hasn't been put up on the website yet. So that's the reason that we didn't really know about it. So this is what I kind of wanted to hone in on. So again, the language in the purpose statement has gotten more and more, it's geared towards the health of the lake, which I think is awesome. In erosion and runoff control clearly encompasses the roads, but it's talking specifically about, contamination of the lake. So the pieces here that I just feel are things that I think maybe aren't working in the best interests of the health of the lake is the first one, serve as a liaison between town government and the lake community. So the lake, the lake belongs to the town. There's I think that there's probably a lot of people outside of the lake community here that are interested in the health of the lake. Plus, the lake community is not a separate community from the town of Shutesbury. And I live here year round. I consider myself to be a Shutesbury resident. I happen to live by the lake, but I'm not a member of a separate community. And so I feel that isn't, and and also there really shouldn't be a barrier between residents being able to address their government directly. I don't even, I think that's even written in our Constitution. We have a right to bring our grievances to the government directly. So I don't think that the people that live at the lake should have this barrier between themselves and a town government when, everybody else does not have that. So that piece, I think I would advocate for changing, just like eliminating it. And then under board structure, if you could just scroll down a tiny bit, just so that, yeah, okay. Now I can see it. So the membership the government members are all the same here, Select Board, Conservation Commission, Board of Health, Planning Board. It would be nice if we had an official planning board member on here. I know it's been a long time since that's happened. You made in 2017 officially the emergency management director and the dam keeper as official members of LWAC, no longer just sort of like voluntary. It looks like it's and then it says no more than 5 members of the Lake Wyola Association. So here again, I would say that having a standing committee that's a town committee.
People have to come in. Tracy,
Huh?
some people need to come in from the waiting room.
Okay,
They'd be missing the discussion. And they wanted to.
So now you can go back to your screen.
Okay. All right.
just let me know when I can resume, Mark.
You can resume right now.
Ready? Okay. So again, similar to what I had to say in regards to the lake community, having it be that there's specific requirement for the members that are non-town officials to be members of the Lake Wyola Association. That leaves out people in town who have an interest in the health of the lake. I mean, people outside of the lake roads come to the lake, swim at the lake, boat at the lake. And so it seems to me that that should be changed to just 5 additional members from the Shutesbury community, something like that. I don't know, you know, the language specifically. And the other thing is that the emergency management director, and you know, Walter, no shade on you because I think that you're great and you're great to have here. You've got a lot of background in history, but it seems that maybe your position anymore is not emergency management director. I'm not sure if that's the new chief of the fire department or if it's the police chief. I don't know, but I know that you're no longer that, right? Is that true? That Walter's no longer the emergency management director?
That is correct. When I was retiring, I brought that up that I was no longer the fire chief and the emergency management director, and therefore, you know, I was not able to be on the committee. And the members at that time felt very strongly with my historical knowledge of the dam primarily, and the sluice gate and then the trash rack and all the work I've done with that they wanted to keep me on as a technical advisor, technical specialist for that. And that's the reason that, and they even, I think, there was probably a vote by the select board to approve that. I'm not sure. But yes, right now, the emergency management director, it's been bouncing around a little bit since I've left as to who was going to do it, who wanted to do it, who didn't want to do it. And I believe it is back now as Lenny Zerwanka as the fire chief and emergency management director. But I don't think he has been approached about sitting in on this committee. I'm not sure.
Well, and that kind of goes to my point about, you know, eliminating the language around the 5 additional members having to be Lake Wyola Association members, because that seems to me where Walter would fit in. As just he lives in the town and he'd be a great member. I agree that Walter should remain. I think you're a great member of this committee, but also the emergency management director is actually in 2017 it was made an official town official town what am I trying to say? An official from the town on this committee is the emergency management director. So still that's the way, that's the position that is listed. So that's all I have to say. Yeah. Those are the things that I would like, that I think that should be changed, those 2 pieces in this, and otherwise I think the scope and the structure are great.
Okay, before we have any discussions on this, are there any other public comments? Walter, your hand is raised. I'm gonna stop my screen sharing now. What's that?
Yeah, that was a mistake. I had raised it when she was talking and she asked the question directly. So
Okay, Thomas, comments?
Yeah, I think when I was just looking at the last iteration there, I do have a question. It would be, I guess, for one question would be, what is the definition of the lake community? And I do think it's an interesting thing that came up. I hadn't really thought of it before, but I think I agree. I don't know if it's not the Shutesbury community. So I wondered, is there an actual definition of it?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so that does seem to be potentially language that could be fixed. If it doesn't have a definition, you know, and also liaison. Does that have a definition? Because it sounds almost like it could be a representative role, whereas previously it had been an advisory role for the LWAC, but it's not a representative commission in terms of for the citizens to have a representative to be a liaison for them, the way I understand it. So I think it is interesting that top line does just ask, it makes me want to ask, what is a liaison? And what is the lake community? And might there be language that could say the same thing, but with more defined terms?
Or can I
Yeah.
respond? There's some history here where I think Tracy alluded to the due 180-day limit proposal way back, I guess, in the 90s. And there was tension between people who had properties at the lake, especially people who were not voting residents of Shutesbury, and elements of the town government that wanted to limit their access to their places. So there were two perceived sides. And the part of the point of LWAC was to facilitate communication between those two sides. And so that's where that language comes from. It's perhaps less pertinent now, but that's how that.
Because that language wasn't there in the 90s, so that's what's interesting. That language came up in 2017.
You know, it was just being carried through, and then in 20.
But I mean, it was invented in 2017. It wasn't carried through. It was an advisor role for the, like, it never mentioned lake community before, and it never mentioned liaison before, which is just interesting that it, from what you're saying, stuff that was in the 90s not described as that became described as that in 2017.
It was always considered what the purpose of one of the prime purposes of.
But it was never written.
It was not necessarily written
So
out.
that's hard to put my head around if it's considered something but not written down, just in terms of
Well,
any
because we all have
statement of
that
structure purposes.
in our.
And what is the 180D thing? I didn't know what that meant.
I think it was the planning board wanted to limit use of properties to seasonal use for no more than 180 days. And there was a huge kerfuffle. And, you know, people were taking sides, and there was communal strife. And this committee was intended to try to use that. Obviously, that proposal failed at, I guess, town meeting. And so there was a bad feeling. So that was part of what was going on. Then in 2017, we previously had a dam management committee, and it came to our attention that all the people on the dam management committee were actually on LWAC. So we moved them.
Yeah, I did read that in minutes of some sort or whatnot. So I guess just what's interesting to me about the 2017 iteration is the possibility that there could be unintentionally exclusive language with Lake Community and Lake Wyola Association, kind of differentiating them outside of the Shutesbury community. So and it's also noticeable that the word road doesn't appear anymore, but especially because this was a committee that was brought into existence largely by the planning board. It's interesting to me that the word road is no longer in the iteration from 2017, as that is such an intrinsic part of what the planning board would be involved with. And I wonder if by not having it in there, it really removes the aspect of road maintenance as being important to name. But even if it's not named, I don't think it eliminates it, but I just think it's it's confusing, and I wonder if it might be better just to preserve the word road in the purpose statement, had been in the previous two purpose statements, and it provides that connection more explicitly to the planning board's role, along with the Board of Health and the Concom. So those would be my comments.
Mark, could you bring back the document?
Let's see if I can go history share.
Mark? Oh, did they freeze? Tracy, they did.
I think so, yeah. I can say this because it's, I know this open meeting, but I did say something at the select board meeting last week to Becky Tora. You know, Becky said she's asked a million times, but she's going to ask again to get them to make.
I'm sure she has. You know, it's not that big of a deal. But the problem is that I gotta get out of here, and now.
Well, technically, it's kind of like a violation of open meeting law. That's the, you know, and she knows that, but she can't fix it herself.
All right. Well, it's usually just a few minutes.
But
I thought
sometimes
Mark
it
had
happens
said at the
twice
beginning
in
of
an hour.
Oh, this is fixed now. We're not going to have this problem.
And sometimes it happens twice during, it's just the LWAC that gets hit with it because it's this time of morning. Like, just make it at 7 o'clock in the morning. It seems like such a simple ask of the company that maintains the system, but I don't know.
Or maybe move the LWAC meeting to 10.
Well, yeah, except that where else right now, until the library's built, you know, there's no community building. There's no space, I don't think.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess I'll microwave my coffee. Yeah, Buck, you want some more foodie? Yeah, Bobby. I'm gonna give you some more foodie. Don't worry. Who's my little Bobby? Who's my little baby? Yeah, you hungry?
Yes.
Oh, they're back.
Hey, we're all. Got your dishes done, baby? All right,
Sure.
yeah, let's reach. And. Welcome to so well, but.
Is either one of it in a second.
I don't know.
Mark, are we all back?
I think we are. So I guess I was given some incorrect information and that the generator may have been set to go to start on Sunday, but it seems to be, well, it's still on this, which to start up on Saturday, so it is what it is.
So, Mark, just
Bob,
for the sake of time, it's 9:31. We usually schedule these things for an hour. We've had a lot of public comment on this discussion. I'm just wondering if for the sake of time, so we can get to the rest of the meeting, we all agree to take this issue under advisement and put it on the agenda for the next meeting for a full meeting discussion by the committee, rather than try to flush it out today.
we both do that. Catherine had a comment, some people the generator kicked in, and I'd like to give her the opportunity to.
Sorry, I don't remember where we were.
All right, so,
I mean, it's a great discussion, and I think it needs more time. I just don't think in the scope of trying to get in everything we want to get in today, we want to as it was brought up in public comment, now I think it should be put on as an official agenda item for the committee to discuss.
I think that's an excellent idea.
The only
you
thing
making-
I just want to say
Motion?
is that I did ask her to be on it as an official agenda item. I'm not quite sure why it got put into public comment, because this was two meetings ago. We skipped it last time because there weren't enough members from LWAC here. So, and last time it wasn't on a public comment. It was on the agenda. So
I actually asked it to be moved.
Yeah.
I asked for it to be moved to public comment, Tracy, because it was coming from a non-committee member, and I really wanted to follow that structure. But I'm certainly not asking that. I think it's a great topic, and I think it needs to be fleshed out. I'm just saying, for the purpose of time, I would like to get it on to the next agenda meeting, as I'm officially requesting that now.
Okay.
So, I think we should have a board by the committee members, so
Well, let's have a motion and a second. I move that we do as Dave just said.
Okay, so we have a motion to put, this item, on the agenda for our next meeting. Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Actually, we'll go for the roll call. Howard? Catherine?
Yes.
John? Art?
Yes.
Dave?
Yep.
Mark is yes, and who else? Walter?
Yes.
Am I missing anybody?
I
Okay,
think that's
so
it.
we're unanimous. Okay, so we'll put this on the agenda, for our next meeting. Good discussion, everybody. And, so let's go back to our agenda, our regular agenda. And, let's review the minutes of our last meeting, which was April 20th. Does anyone have any corrections or suggestions?
I'm going to obviously abstain because I fortunately was not at that meeting.
And Mark, could I ask that you stop sharing the screen now? Because we still have that up on the screen.
Excellent. One of these days I will figure out the system.
There we go. Now we can see Howie.
All right, good. All right, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
So we'll do a vote. Howard? Yes. Catherine?
Yes.
John? Dave?
Yes. Wait a minute. I can't approve the minutes. I wasn't there.
Okay.
You can
Please.
vote anyway.
I can. Well, then I approve them because I read them.
Walter?
Yes.
Excellent. So we have the minutes approved, and I'll send those off to Grace to put on the website. Committee membership. Mary David resigned as the as our member from the Conservation Commission. Actually, she resigned the Conservation Commission and this committee. So we'll have to contact the Conservation Commission once they get fully staffed and see if they can provide a new member. I want to thank Mary for her contribution. She was a solid attendee and always had good comments, and she was an asset to the committee. Any comments from the committee members? Okay, excellent. Item 6 on the agenda is E. coli testing plan. And this, Catherine asked us to put those in, so I'll turn the floor over to Catherine.
I have not heard anything recently, but last I knew from Bob Blanchett, they were unable to find somebody to take the water samples for their weekly water tests. The company that did it last year has gone out of business, and they were unable to find somebody to do it. And I suggested that they try to get whoever was doing the park, but I don't know if that has happened. Back when the committee started, we were doing once a month testing, and it was done the water samples were taken by volunteers. Usually Bill, and I think you were in it, and maybe Dave.
I did it.
Yeah,
I'd do it again, but I thought they said they couldn't do that anymore, Catherine, that it had to be a professional service.
who said that?
I thought they got in trouble because it wasn't being done consistently. So I thought the association got slapped on the hand, and they had to actually pay for it, because obviously when it was done by volunteers, it was a lot easier. I mean, I was doing it when I wasn't working. As soon as I went back to work, I said, I can't do this anymore.
Right. I am unaware of their being required to pay someone to take the water sample. There was a problem that they weren't taking water samples as often as they were supposed to. Under Bill Elliott's regime, he thought he had some kind of loophole where they only had to do it once a month. The people no longer allow that without their jumping through all kinds of hoops involving a complete non-point source contamination study and so on. And I gave them this information when I got DP several years ago, and no action was taken, not surprising. So they have to have water testing weekly.
Or close the beaches.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna ask Art a question here. Art, do you know if there's been, has the association been able to get someone to do the water testing?
Yeah, we're testing the association beaches weekly. We have Matt Borowitz, who's a member of the board. His daughter is taking the samples and then transporting them to whatever the name of the lab is in Hatfield.
Howard Labs.
Howard Labs.
The
Okay.
lab is moving away.
So I don't know if we've started yet. Memorial next weekend we start. So
Right.
and I forget the day. I think they test on Monday or Tuesday. So if they get a high reading, they can still retest during the week. But
The
yeah,
ideal.
So it sounds like the issue is, it's all set. You
Sounds
have,
like they've sorted it out.
yeah, so,
Thank goodness.
Great.
yeah, and you know, Dave, I don't know if you know, if there's a rule that we can't do it ourselves or not, but there's no company to do it.
Well, then I guess we're doing it ourselves then. There we go.
So we're doing it ourselves.
I mean, I did see this, like me last year, this gentleman, very professional, would show up, you know, put all his gear on, head down there. So I got to think that costs a small fortune.
He's done.
Okay.
okay, so I think this is all squared away. And so the Board of Health should start getting these data test results.
Yes.
In the near future.
Right, there's going to be some new kind of reporting where we actually upload the results directly to DPH. And so those test results might be available online. I'll let you know more about that after I've tried it out.
Great, that'd be excellent. Thank you, Pat. Tracy, you have your hand raised, comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up something in relation to this. I had sent the Board of Health some beach water testing data that I found on the mass.gov website. Unfortunately, they only post it once a year, but they post for every lake in the whole state. And one thing that I picked up on is that all of the state-owned beaches and some town beaches test for something called, they're testing instead of E. coli, which most places it's just E. coli, is enterococci, and it looks like it's a family of bacteria. And the state beach failed last year, 68 days. They were closed because of it. So it just seems to me that that's probably there, you know, present in the other beaches too, because why would it just be there and not around the lake? Especially with speedboats kind of, you know, swirling it up. So I don't know, I thought that's something that maybe should be looked into, because it's a lot of time that the state beach was closed. And the previous summer, they were also closed quite a bit of the season, not the, you know, not as much as 68 days, but like, I think it was in the 30s or 40s. It was a lot of days the previous summer. So something's going on.
Okay, Mark.
I mean, I can only say that we, you know, Board of Health requires E. coli testing. The enterococci testing is according to Bill's, my conversation with Bill years ago, is primarily for saltwater, but the state has one uniform protocol, I guess, and so all state facilities make that measure. Okay, any other comments about the E. coli testing in the lake? Committee members? All right. Thank you. Next item is the proposed task force to investigate funding options to reduce stormwater runoff and silt contamination in the lake. We participated, or I participated, and Jennifer in a select board meeting on the 7th, where we brought this issue to the select board. Jennifer wrote up an excellent summary, which I sent out to everybody, with our scope of the meeting, our scope of the proposal. It was discussed at that select board meeting, and Rita took Jennifer's scope and has changed it a bit, and modified and enhanced it. And both Jennifer and I and Becky have seen copies of that. And I think we haven't got the final draft of it yet. Last night we were still going back and forth, but it's coming along nicely. Jennifer, would you like to provide some color to this or comments?
Yeah, I'd only say that one outcome of that select board meeting was that Rita and the others at the meeting felt that it was important that this task force be, let's say, for lack of a better word, under the select board. You know, that it be a select board town task force. And that effort would be to provide a coordinating and leadership role for all of the stormwater issues, whether they involve Lake Wyola roads or not. You know, that their perception was that it is a town-wide issue. So this gets a little bit to what Tracy was talking about in terms of our scope, or mentioning road maintenance and so on. I think the energy is more now towards stormwater management as a town-wide issue. So I felt myself, I'm not an LWAC member, but that's a super positive development for the town to see that they have some leadership they could provide to dealing with these issues. So that's all I would add to what Mark said.
What's the follow-up, Jen, to it at this point?
At that meeting, there was the decision that in order for it to be a select board task force, that it would need a charge from
Okay,
the select board, and that is now the thing that's popping back and forth. So the proposal that you guys saw was largely unchanged by Rita. It was reorganized a little bit. She fleshed out a member section, which was, I think, 11 members, and it's quite expansive in terms of pulling in as many different kinds of people and residents. And then we've had a little back and forth on the background to it, but it's back on the agenda for everyone to review the charge that will be on Tuesday's select board meeting. That's
So
right, Mark? Yeah, Tuesday.
so if the select board approves this, that's it. The committee's then going to be formed. Is that how it's going to
That's
work?
my understanding, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Any comments, questions from committee members? Good. One of my comment is, it seems like we're getting past this this discussion where these are private roads, and therefore the town can't do anything to them or can't participate in the solution. And Jen's been very eloquent, convincing Rita, and I think Becky now, that there is a role for a dual role for everyone to work together on this problem. So it's all positive. All right, yeah, if there's no other comments on that, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is an update on dam activities. Okay. So I'll give a quick update on where things are right now. Our engineering company, GCA, is working diligently on understanding the permitting process. So right now they've been in these conversations with the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Group. And we're working on setting up a meeting with them to discuss the endangered species being a bridled shiner. And they want to understand the endangered, they want to understand if NHESB feels that the drawdown would affect this and would affect the shiner, and if it does, what are the mitigating steps that they would like to see. So there's a good conversation about that. They've also are looking into Chapter 91 licensing and drawdown from Chapter 91 group. And so they're looking at two different things. One is there are two things that really would accept the dam from requiring licensing. The first thing is if the dam has not been substantially changed since before 1984, which is the case. We have the design documents when the dam was rebuilt and the before and after, and there's really been no change to the dam. So based upon the law, the dam doesn't require an operating license. The idea of whether the drawdown is grandfathered in has to do with whether we have records going back to the 90s and going back to the early 90s, the late 80s, as to whether we have any records that the lake was drawn down. If we have records that say that the lake's been continuously drawn down since then, it's effectively becomes grandfathered in, and so we wouldn't need the permitting process gets to be a lot easier. It just comes out to content at that point. If we have those records, it would save the town about $100,000 in permitting fees. So it would really be nice to have. Right now, we have Howard has records going back into the.
Well, mine back then.
Yeah, and so they're looking for records going back, to 1984 is really the key date. And we haven't been able to find it. Becky's checked, can't find the records in the town archives. And so my question to everyone here is, does anyone have any ideas where there might be records of such a thing?
Do these have to be written records?
They have to be. They don't have
I think it can be a number of photographs.
Well, those photographs have dates association.
And I'm speaking,
Yeah,
I think, of photographs that we have going back. I'd have to dig into that, but I was just wondering about that, amongst everybody else, if they had such things that would satisfy anybody.
well, we have photographs with dates on them. Like the old days, the photographs actually had dates on the back a lot of times when they were developed. That would be helpful. Anyone else have any other ideas? So that's asked you a lot, many times.
Well, I've been going back to what I have, but I haven't found anything yet. Find it for work that was done over there, when they put the date and stuff like that. That wasn't what they wanted.
No, well, they need.
There was a drawdown, but it was about 8 minutes.
Yeah, and that was around 2007.
Yeah, well, no, I think it's, yeah.
So for the longtime members, you can think of anything, any source or records in town there, maybe some other committees. I kind of look back through the committee that started before this, so before LRAP, which was the Wyola and Wendell State Park.
Oh, right, that advisory committee.
And I scanned those and I did a search on those and didn't find any reference
Right,
to.
but that committee didn't really go back that far.
Yeah, that's right, it did. And so, but I was looking for any reference, any references. So if you guys, if anybody can think of something, or then another source that would really save the town a lot of money. Let's see, Walter, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, just for clarification, how far back are they looking for records? And then how far back is the records that Howie has a copy of go? And I believe there was records that he had submitted at some point that went back further than that, and those are the ones that the town can't find.
When I first started down there, the record book was not there. It had been lost or something, and I started my own, but I wasn't writing it like I do now with lake levels and all that, but just how much we opened the gate and how much it closed. But I did, if it was a reason for it, then lots of that would be in there, but.
I think there were a couple of your records, but the issue
Yeah.
is it didn't go that far enough. It's the late eighties.
Cause I started in '82, but I didn't start records, I think, until later.
Does anyone recall when we started to the actual annual drawdown? Did we always do a small drawdown in winter time? Or was it, I know we used to do them every 5 years or so, and we have
Yeah.
records of that. But did we ever do an annual drawdown? Records
I'm
that,
trying to think when it started. Well, it's been all during my time.
okay, so since
Well,
since later, so it has been, since you started in '82,
yeah,
so then we have been effectively doing it,
well,
it's just, some of the records.
say
And,
from,
how far back is the state looking to have records to prove that we've been doing it historically?
January 1, 1984, or just about, we got back to the late to anytime in the eighties.
Okay.
That would work.
All right, thank you.
Let's see, Tracy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I'm not quite sure that just got all cleared up and that Howie was taking records from 82, and so therefore that would be who the only records would be with. But if that's not the case, I just wanted to point out that I believe that the dam is dated to the Conservation Commission. So it seems that records would have gone to them. And I don't know if somebody, if you know who was on the Conservation Commission in the early 80s. I don't know, maybe somebody's got some records in their house. A copy.
Thank you.
Is that the case about am I right about that the dam is under the purview of the Conservation Commission? They own it?
I think the dam is owned by the town. The Conservation Commission, in my understanding, because it's in a wetland, it's in an upper area of the lake. They have jurisdiction over, not jurisdiction, they have to approve changes that are made, like the culvert repair and like the dam repair. But they're just, their role is informing what is in what's up, the Wetland Protection Act, enforcing the Wetland Protection Act. That's their sole role. So
Well, I guess I'm speaking of the land use grant. I think that it was needed under a land use grant, so that is an ownership thing. But anyway, I think that checking with the Conservation Commission, if you can find out who was on it back in the early 80s, maybe that's an avenue.
Okay, thank you.
when I first started, we worked for conservation, and then it changed to the select board. I think I got a letter from with that. They could check the conservation.
Okay, like I can certainly send Concom a note.
See if I can find the data.
Okay, that'd be great. We'll get to that. Bob Douglas, you have your hand raised?
Great, thank you, Mark. I I apologize, I came in a little late. Can you tell me a little bit more about the fees that are required, $100,000?
These are the fees to the engineering company, GZA, over a 2-year period that to work on getting all the permits and filing all the applications and permitting. Their budget is like, I think, 25,000 this year, and it goes up to $45,000 next year. So that's basically what it is, and filing fees, of course, but the big thing is their time and resources.
And but there's some kind of grandfathering if you can show it has been drawn down for a period of time, that set of permits isn't required.
The permitting becomes much easier. We won't require a MISA review, which is a complicated review process, and is my understanding. And I'm not really up to speed in this stuff that much, but there's a lot more state agencies. If we don't get grandfathered, there's a lot more state agencies that get involved.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
And the town is really trying to do things by the book, and we're not, but if we're grandfathered, and it saves a lot of money. It doesn't mean we're still gonna get the permits to do the drawdowns, but it makes the process a lot easier.
Okay.
Last thing that the GCA is working on is investigating they're looking at scoping the dam maintenance repairs. At the last 2 dam inspections, there were a number of items identified, and these are in the minutes of our meetings. Things like there's the sluice gate has a leak in it. It needs to be plugged. The mortar on the top of the dam needs to be repaired. It's just regular maintenance, and so they're looking at that and scoping on it, and so we can go out for bid to get that work done. So there's a lot of activity around the dam, and the dam's in great shape, but we're just trying to, keep it in great shape and do everything right.
This past week, they put up all the no parking signs on both sides of the street.
Oh, excellent.
Did I just hear the no parking signs went up?
Yes. Both sides of the street.
Okay, that should be interesting. Thanks, Howie.
Any other comments about the dam or questions about the dam? The next item is a quick one. The status of the FERCog watershed-based plan, which is, the plan that's looking at the whole watershed and what needs to be done. That's still currently with Mass DEP, and they're waiting for the Mass DEP review and approval of the plan at FERCog Road. So it's still in draft form. It's been with DEP for a while. I do check back every month, and that's it. And I think they check with Mass DEP every month just to see what's going on. And we're just on hold. Any comments or questions on that? Jen, you have a
I just have a quick question. So if this is a FERCog, plan and research and all of that, what is DEP's role in that? Do they challenge the plan? If it's just informational, then you would think DEP could just receive the final plan. But do you know what their role is? Do they have some authority to change the plan?
Oh, absolutely, yes. They can make they have reviewed earlier drafts. They have made recommendations for changes.
I see.
And they can still recommend more changes.
I got it. Okay.
And it's important to get DEP involved and supportive of the plan, because that will help us get both state and federal funding. Once we have a watershed-based plan in place that defines all the problems and helps prioritize what needs to be done. then we have a much better shot at getting state and federal funding.
I understand. It's like the big stamp of approval.
But that's pretty much it. But it's just not rubber stamp. They question it. They take a serious look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, is there an actual formal approval that they issued saying that this is an approved plan by EP? Is that how that works?
Yeah, yes, that's right. That's what will happen. And once we get that, then we can start looking at funding sources. The first one would be a fund to do the design work. Right now, this plan describes the problems. The next phase is to define the solutions. And so we'll get funding for engineering studies to come up with the solution. And then the third phase would be funding to implement the solutions. And some would be funding from a variety of organizations, including the Lake Wyola Association, the town. So it's a long process, but it's just the way it is. It's just step by step. So the select board task force kind of duplicates some of this stuff. But it may help move things along faster. Jennifer, you saw your hand raised?
I didn't mean to, but I'll just say, when we talked to the select board, that question came up, and, just to the extent that I have, a picture of what this task force might look like or be doing, it seems that the jumping off point for the task force would be the FERCog study. The effort is not to duplicate, but to take that material and then run with it.
I was going to make the same comment, Jen, but I didn't want to put the cart before the horse.
Okay.
We good on this, Mark?
I think so. Although, is there any more comments and questions from the committee members? Okay, good, thank you. The last item is items not reasonably anticipated. So are there any other items from committee members?
Oh, I have a question about that. Were you asked as the committee chair to poll the committee about the future format for meetings? There's going to be an all boards meeting in June, and the boards, and I don't know if committees are included, were asked to sort of poll their members and talk about what their wishes are for the format of future meetings, whether in person, Zoom, or hybrid. I don't know if this committee was kind of included in that.
I'm not sure if we're included, but it's worthwhile to get everyone's opinion. So the question is, I guess the select board is looking at a possibility of changing the format of these meetings. During COVID, they were all hybrid. No, they were all on Zoom. Then we moved to a hybrid meeting, which we were the first group to actually do a hybrid meeting. And it was a little tricky at first, and we're gotten much better at it. And then I guess the third possibility is to go back to only in-person meetings, which as was done prior to COVID. Any comments? Committee members?
Has it seemed like with this hybrid, there's more people involved than when we had just in-person meetings, but then it was just us.
I do think the hybrid version is more inclusive, but I certainly would be willing to come back down to the town hall for meetings. I don't have to do it online. If that's what the committee would prefer, I'm open to whatever.
The select board announced at their last meeting that all meetings will be hybrid, and essentially it will become a question of how to establish good quality hybrid meetings. Because that's been the issue, is the quality of the hybrid meetings. So they have already presented technologies they might go to, different spaces they might use, but in terms terms of the format, they announced that hybrid is essentially been decided upon. So it's kind of a question of going from there, how well it will be done, so to say, or can be done.
Right, and then also when you get into multiple meetings and meetings overlapping, if we only have one or two places to do hybrid, it's gonna make scheduling meetings very difficult on those popular nights. So, I mean, I don't think it'll affect this group very much, but it'll affect most everybody else. If they have it on, have to have everything hybrid. Just a thought there. I like the hybrid. It does give you some flexibility when you say you're running late and you can't be there in person, but you still want to make the meeting or you're out of town, you can still join the meetings. It's nice to be able to have people get together in one place. So that part of the hybrid I really like. But if we require all of them to be hybrid, it'll just, the only thing I can see is it's going to make a scheduling issue on those nights that there's a lot of meetings. So.
Mark? They froze again. All right.
Yep, must
On
be
that
the
note-
generator just went off.
It happens twice in the morning on Saturday mornings. It's just so weird.
This was the last part of the meeting, gang. I've got to get into Greenfield, so I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye, David. Yeah, it seems to me, and maybe this is just off the wall, but couldn't they do the regenerator cycle like a different day, like Sunday?
Oh,
Or
Bob, this has been an issue
Block?
we've been fighting for a couple years, and I hate to say it, and I think this is still being recorded, so I'm going to say it anyways, is that, you know, it's because it only affects this group, when it doesn't really affect you, it doesn't become high priority.
Understood.
It takes a few minutes to reprogram the controller on the generator. There's instructions right there how to do it. It's just having the right people remember that when they're there doing the service. Oh yeah, we were supposed to have you change the timing on this, or having them change it and do it right. That's, you know, that's the issues there. It's very easy to do. It's just like a lot of things with town government, getting it to happen is sometimes a difficult thing.
I appreciate that, Walt. And you know, I was kind of in the same train of thought. It's like somewhere there's a little computer that starts and stops it. Hey, just tell the computer to go to a different time. So
Oh yeah, you can go in there and program it to do whatever you want. And just because it's set up the first time doesn't mean you can't change it. You can easily go in and change it. It's just having somebody to do it. I mean, I've even offered, but I won't go in and touch it without, because I'm not, you know, the fire chief or the emergency management director anymore. I will not touch it unless I'm specifically asked, just for the liability issues. So hopefully, and it was told to Mark that it had been done. It was switched to Sunday, but maybe they added Sunday and left Saturday in there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, apparently so.
Hello. We're back online. I don't think you can hear us.
Yep, we can hear you.
I was really excited when I was told it was switched to Sunday, but I never envisioned the possibility of it not being both days. You have to
Yeah,
come to
it sounds like that's what it is. They changed it to Sunday, or they might have added Sunday, but forgot to take Saturday out. So. Oh well.
See, Bob has his hand raised.
yeah, I apologize, Mark. We had a little conversation while we were in limbo. You know, I would ask that you know, as chairman of this group, you ask the selectman or town manager or administrator or both if we could get continuity in the meeting and not have these interruptions. Walter or somebody said that it's simply a programming matter and might be able to be taken care of.
To be honest, Bob, I've been trying for 2 years. That is no idea. I know Walter's tried, get it done himself and get it done. Everybody, Catherine has had conversations, with the powers to be, and yeah, I kind of feel I had come to accept what the reality of what it is. And then all of a sudden I was told it was all fixed. So much for optimistic thinking.
Thank you for your persistence.
And I'll talk to Becky, this week and see if we get the generator people back out here. Because they must have charged them to come out here to change it to Sunday.
That way they get two trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess we had a little discussion here about these media format of meetings, and there's a number of people have complained that the Zoom meetings are really the worst format, or the hybrid meetings are the worst format. And
Sounds like it might be out of our hands.
Tom seems to think the decision was already made, but then we're not exactly sure. So anyway, we'll keep our eyes on what's going on, and then keep you upward informed. Any other items? Anything you want to discuss? Okay, it's about 10:13. Making a motion to close the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
For a second. If I have to be able to vote on it. You know. So let's assume the meeting's going to be at an end. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank
for
you, everybody.
attending. And we'll see you next month.
All right, see you guys, bye.
Yeah, though, in some cases, I think a lot higher meetings are worse because. Yeah, I think,